Hi guys, welcome or welcome back. This is book 3 of the Pillow Talk of the Pillow Thoughts poetry collection by Courtney. It is called Mending the Mind. It is 2 stars. For different reasons than why the second one was 2 stars. Okay? It's not an improvement from the second one. It's really not. It's just different than the second one. But also, I have my little notes again. I do want to say this is the one I took the least notes on because this one is fucking boring. None of the other ones, including the 4th one, which I'm going to make that video after this video for, but I have finished it. I have read all 4 at this point in time. None of them I found boring. I just found them annoying, except for this one. Book 3, Mending the Mind, is fucking boring. Like, it was exhaustive to try to finish, which I did, but like, it was not fun. Also, I want to talk about an issue. This is not on Courtney Peppernell at all. She had no control over this. So I've been reading these books for free, right? Because I have the first row on Kindle Unlimited, so that's free. Well, I mean, Kindle Unlimited isn't free, but if you pay that, then you get all the unlimited books for free. So the first one I got on Kindle Unlimited, well, actually the first one I had a physical copy of that I got rid of because it was bad. And then they're both on Kindle Unlimited. So the next 2, 3 and 4, I got on Libby, which is a like library app, right? Now the 4th one let me read the book on Kindle, so it's like through Libby, but it's the Kindle version, right? So that's fine, no qualms. The 3rd one, I could not find the Kindle version on Libby, at least with the multiple libraries that I have on Libby. No, I'm not telling you this one, they're secrets, but in any of the libraries, when I was like looking up the book, I could not find the Kindle version. It made me read the Libby version, which is whoever the fuck's version. And let me tell you why that's a problem. They don't separate the poems, or paragraphs, I should say, for this bullshit. But they don't separate them. The book is like 60 pages, maybe. 60, not like 60, 70, like it's half of what it should be because everything is together. So I'm doing my best. I couldn't find it. That's not on Hoopla. It's for money on Kindle. I'm not about to buy the real one. I'm not about to spend money on it. So I separated them by what I thought was what they were separated by. If I'm incorrect, I'm sorry. But this isn't on Courtney Peppernell. She did not tell them to do this. Whoever scanned in this fucking ebook fucked it up, okay? And I guess the library didn't check. I don't fucking know. But I could not find the correct, like, whatever the fuck, done ebook. So we're going with what I have. And if I cut something off wrong, I'm sorry. But I am not paying money for this book. So let's see what I have, what I do have on this. And yes, I do have quotes. Now, we do have a new drawing. We're using owls now. And the owls are sometimes with a jellyfish and sometimes they're just an owl. And the owl does actually change, and I'm proud of them for that. They actually do redraw the owl. But I talked about this in the last book. The owl was clearly drawn on like a piece of paper or a tablet bigger than the book itself, like the physical book. Because to see all the detail that they've put into the owl drawings, you gotta zoom it in like this big, right? And I appreciate the amount of detail that's put into them, don't get me wrong. But when you're illustrating something, you have to consider the fact that it's going to be on a book like this big, right? like what is this, like 6x9 or something, you have to consider the fact that it's going to be small, which means all of that detail that you drew in is going to disappear and look dark. Because look at it from this far, it just looks dark, right? And then you zoom in on him and he actually has like shadows. But when he's tiny, you can't tell really. Like all that detail goes away. So that's on some artistic shit. But anyway, she keeps using messy. She stay using the word messy. It's in all 3 books now. Okay, please get over it. Now I will say the writing is slightly less childlike. We have reached, it's not adulthood, it's just average. Okay, I think we're at like a YA level of very like average writing. Okay, this book seems to focus a lot on darker and dangerous thoughts like suicide. I'm gonna use the word because we're 7 minutes into the video, but if I someday get flagged for this, I'll change it. But I think if we're gonna talk about a topic, we should talk about a topic with words. Okay. It talks a lot about worth living for and never giving up the fight, which is fine. It's just a jarring transition. Like, this book is very dark and very like sad compared to the other 2 books, which were very much like Hallmark inspirational. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, it's jarring if you want to consider this in the same set. Like, it doesn't go together, because also you wouldn't think of the dark book as being like so late in the set, because at this point shouldn't you be like on the fast track of healing? It keeps talking about hearts beating in chest, thighs, rib cages, coffee, the moon, and stars. So it's the same shit again and the same words, and we're not getting any synonyms. None of them. We still don't own a thesaurus. And also, like, in the heart book, she said heart a billion times. She still says heart a billion times in here, but now she also says mind a billion times. And it's so annoying because we get what the title is. We get it. You don't have to put the word in every single fucking page. You don't. It's really getting into heavy cliche territory, more so than the other books. She's stating so many established principles that these don't really feel like her words anymore. Like, at least the first 2 books felt unique to her. Now, most of the first 2 books felt unique to her. There were a few things that I pointed out in my videos that did not feel unique. It felt like her trying to make her own spin on well-established phrases, and she did it bad. This is much more cliche. Much more. I'll get into the quotes. I was just writing this as vibes, and then we'll get into the quotes and at the end of my notes, okay? Speaking openly about a first love, so my assumptions about the other books were right. In the other books, in the first 2, she didn't really say first love. She said like, and she didn't really say high school sweetheart. It's just like that was the vibe. But in this book, she explicitly says like first love. And so we were right about that. I put, honestly, by the end, I was so bored, I wasn't paying attention, which is true. By the end, I was absolutely not paying attention. And no, I'm not going to reread it, because if you can't hold my focus in a fucking poetry book, it's written better, but now it's just turned into Hallmark jargon. Nothing's new, nothing's captivating, there's nothing interesting. Like, I honestly don't see the point of the book. Like, I see the darker stuff. There would be a point to writing that, but by the end of the book, it's just all jargon. It's just all bullshit. And so, like, at that point, I was like, why are we here? Like, why did we write it? And then my last note was, it does seem like the person has gotten better mentally, at least. So maybe they are healing. Okay, so let's go to my screenshots. Because on Libby Books, you can't, like, take fucking notes, like on Kindle. So I had to just take screenshots of the page and then bracket what I wanted to talk about. I'm also not telling you page numbers because A, I don't know what they are, and B, they're wrong. They're utterly wrong. Like, this should be, like, 6 or 7 pages, and it's not. So I'm just going to tell you what section they're in. So this is in the first section. In the mornings, I think about holding your hand, drinking coffee in bookstores, and keeping that heart of yours forever. But then it is night, and I imagine pulling off your dress and falling into sheets, your thighs shaking, and my lips making you weak. Now, I don't really have, like, problems with this. It's just to go from the other two books that read like fucking children's books to you openly talking about sex as like the maybe fourth thing in this book was weird. It was jarring. It was like suddenly you're an adult, but it made me feel awkward. It made me feel awkward in the way of like high schoolers doing stuff. It makes me feel awkward. You know? I was like, I didn't know we were there because your language in the other two books was not there. Like, you talked about living together, being together and stuff. So obviously it was implied that you were most likely having sex, but for you to explicitly state it here was just jarring. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just like a weird jump. I don't know if this is its own thing or if it's a part of the ones around it. It doesn't seem like it's the part of the ones around it, but I could be wrong. So I'm just giving you the line that irks me. The line is, I exist between my faith in her and my loyalty to us. This line confuses me because A, we were talking about faith, and I always get iffy whenever you use the word faith, even if it's not necessarily in a religious context, because it gives religious, okay? Now, I exist between my faith in her and my loyalty to us. That sounds like a third person. But in all of this, you're so monogamous about your one bitch. And so, what do you mean? I'm just very confused. My faith in her and my loyalty to us. Like, you see her as an individual, but then you see you as an us. The whole thing, like, the whole sentence just confused me. The grass isn't always greener on the other side. In fact, the grass has been tendered and grown by someone else. Just because your front lawn is withering doesn't mean you can destroy someone else's. The grass has been tendered. I'm about to Google if tendering grass is a thing, because that sounds wrong. I think she means tended. I think she means tended. And just like, no one fucking edits these, apparently. There's a place called Tender Grass Farms. Oh, there's a type of grass where you call it tender grass, which means it's easily broken, cut, or crushed, soft, not tough. But it's still, the way she's using tender is still wrong. Because the grass has been tendered and grown by someone. It's not tendered. It's not doing something. It's not a verb. Okay. It would be tended and grown by someone else. Just because your front lawn is withering doesn't mean you can destroy someone else's. Okay, here's my other thing. The grass isn't always greener on the other side. That makes sense, because it's not. The grass has been tended, as it fucking should be, and grown by someone else. Just because your front lawn is withering doesn't mean you can destroy someone else's. I think that misinterprets the idea of the grass is greener on someone on the other side, because she's saying, the way she's talking about it is the grass on the other side is someone else's lawn, and you going over there hurts that person. That's not the meaning of the phrase. The meaning of the phrase would be that both pieces of grass are yours, not that you're invading someone else's lawn. You know what I mean? Like, she's changing the meaning of the phrase to do what she wants visually, and that doesn't work because that's not the meaning of the fucking phrase. The meaning of the phrase is not bother someone else to make yourself feel better. It's if you look at your own shit differently, it can be better than what you perceive it, you know? If you're giving your attention to someone, they should be giving theirs back to you. If they're not, it's either because yours is unwanted or they're just not available. It's like she's trying to get into like the therapy side of talking, but it's weird. If you give your attention to someone, they should be giving theirs back to you. Not necessarily. What if your attention is unwanted? You know what I mean? And if they're not, it's either because yours is unwanted or they're just not available. Like, so that means you shouldn't bother them, or else they have their own problems. So, like, what are you trying to get at with this? Like, I feel like she's trying to be, like, therapist here. That, like, either they don't want you or something else is going on, which is, like, yes, but why are we saying it? Like, what is the point of putting this here? Like, what does that have to do with mending the mind? You know? They need you, even if sometimes it feels they don't. It feels they don't. It feels like they don't. Like, please get your shit together. It seems like whenever she actually does something in like a poetic format, she takes away words. And it's so annoying. Taking away words does not make something poetry. It doesn't. And then this is a weird thing of saying they need you, even if sometimes it feels like they don't. What if they don't? Like, what if you are needy? What if you are the problem? Like, that's a... See, this is why I said in the second book, it feels like she's the problem. And, like, the further I read into these books, the more it seems like she's the problem. Maybe they don't need you. Maybe you're oppressive, okay? Maybe you're a lot. It's weird. Life is a conductor, and you are running your hands along an instrument in an orchestra so big, it's easy to get lost among the strings and the notes. But a beautiful sound is never lost in the crowd. First of all, I'm a band kid, and even I thought when you start the sentence off with life as a conductor, you meant train conductor. I'm gonna be so real. Even I thought. I did band for 11 years, okay? 11 years. And still, I was like, life is a conductor. She's talking about, like, Polar Express. Like, so that one threw me. And if it threw a band kid, it's probably gonna throw other people. You're running your hands along an instrument in an orchestra. I feel like you could say that with less words. So big, it's easy to get lost among the strings and the notes. That should just be strings and notes, like not the. And then it says, but a beautiful sound is never lost in the crowd. That is not true literally at all. And that's how I know that she's not a band kid. At least I don't think so. If she is, I have a lot of questions. Or like an orchestra kid, because there's a difference. Orchestra means that there are stringed instruments. Band means that there are not stringed instruments. I was in band. I played in some orchestras, but I was in band. Okay? Anyway. A beautiful sound is never lost in a crowd. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Like, from a literal standpoint, if you're in an orchestra and you play something nice, it's not going to be heard unless no one else is playing, or unless they're playing quieter than you, right? Like, if you had a solo, then it would be heard. Also, a crowd. You're saying that, like, you shine bright in a seat, like, in a crowd of people, right? Which is not true. You're not that unique to stand out. You are not the anime protagonist of the story. Okay? You don't have bright blue hair, and everyone has brown hair. And you think that you do, but you're not. Because, like, the other thing that's problematic with doing something as, like using an orchestra as an analogy is an orchestra is a teamwork thing. An orchestra is not an individual thing. It is a group of people with the same goal. It is not a, like, even if you have a solo, your solo is part of a piece of music that includes the rest of the instruments. It's very weird to use a group thing as, like, you standing out in the crowd when the whole point is that you don't stand out. It's that you're with the group. You know what I'm saying? Like, this one I think is... Oh, maybe this is connected. Do y'all think... Okay, tell me if this is connected. Okay, so right underneath that paragraph, there is, like, a tab over. And I'll show you. It says, who you are is louder than you think. Do you think that's connected? Maybe it is. Maybe it is. Because I marked that singular line. Because what the fuck do you mean who you are is louder than you think? I think she's trying to say that, like you can find your voice among everyone, you know, that sort of thing. But the who you are is louder than you think just makes you seem fucking annoying. You're louder than what you think. so you're loud, so you're a nuisance. Like, that's not a good way to describe finding your voice, right? You wouldn't find it as like, you wouldn't describe, so, oh, she found her voice as, oh, she's loud. No, loud is different. I think this is just a one-liner. I think. It says, there is bravery in uncertainty. I think it's just one line. These seem to have like a big space between them, and I think it's just one line. But the line of there is bravery in uncertainty. Yeah, put the Hallmark card away, please. But what's the point of that? Despite all reasons to lock yourself away, fresh air is good for you. Soothing deep breaths of fresh air. Nature knows what is best for you. So when the mountains call, don't ignore them. You can say Cassidy, you're making a leap. Whatever. All of her shit gives me privilege. So when the mountains call, don't ignore them. Gives the exact same energy of you're what's holding you back from traveling. It's the exact same energy of just travel. Just go somewhere, okay? It's that exact fucking same energy. And it's that same pretentious shit of people acting like you can fucking travel with courage and bravery as your currency. No, you fucking can't. You can't cash that in at a fucking gas station and fill your car. You can't cash that in at a hotel and spend the night. Like, that shit makes me so mad. It's such privilege to just be like, just go travel. Go see the world. Go become cultured. Some of us have a 9-to-5 and can't fucking leave, okay? Some of us do not have travel money. Like, oh, that shit makes me so mad. And it gives you just need to go outside. Which, like, theoretically, most everyone does have a means to outside. Does have a means to air. Like, fresh air outside of your domicile, right? But when the mountain calls, don't ignore it. Baby girl, we have economic problems. When the mountains call, don't ignore it. I don't live near the mountains. I live near the sea. I can't see a mountain from where I stand. Because it's flat. I would love to see a mountain. I prefer the mountains. I prefer snow. We moved here for a job. We can't just go to the mountains when we fucking feel like it. Like, no, we have a job. And it's here. Y'all irritate the fuck out of me with that. Okay, again, I think this is one thing. Someone has the headlights on in the drive, and I forget myself every time I close my eyes. You're rhyming drive with eyes. So sure. But then it's also, I forget myself every time I close my eyes. That sounds like you have like an actual psychological issue. And what does that have to do with headlights? Like, what does headlights have to do with forgetting yourself? Like, if maybe you're trying to say that like when they show up in your driveway and you see the headlights of like that person's car, then you forget everything and like go back to them or like some shit like that. Maybe that's what you were going for. But I forget myself every time I close my eyes. Like, are you closing your eyes to the headlights because they're bright? Like, do you have astigmatism like me, bitch? Like, I can't look at headlights, I'll die. I can't look at the sun, I'll fucking die. Okay, like, my eyes are fucking sensitive. I can't be doing that. Like, it confuses me. I'm trying to see how this one's set up. Give me a moment. Okay, I'm pretty sure this one is 2 lines. Loneliness comes from getting lost in your own thoughts and not knowing which way will bring you home. I think it's those 2. Loneliness does not come from getting lost in your own thoughts. Let's just X-nay on that one. Loneliness and feeling lost are 2 separate things. Can they go together? Absolutely. Are they always together? No. And she does this where she connects loneliness to things, and they aren't always connected. This comes up later too. Loneliness comes from getting lost in your own thoughts. No, you could actually be lonely. You could actually physically be alone. You know what I mean? Or like not have friends at school or like stuff like that. And you getting lost in your own thoughts does not necessarily attribute to people not being around you. If anything, I would think being lonely would add to you be getting lost in your own thoughts because you don't have people to interact with. So you're only interacting with yourself. And then it says, and not knowing which way will bring you home. Like, I guess she's trying to say that you're so, like, deep in your own head that you can't figure out a way home. But what does not finding a way home have to do with being lonely? Those are two separate things, right? Like, it doesn't add up. And I don't like the way she talks about stuff like this, because stuff like this comes into, like, the mental illness and, like, the therapy side of stuff, where, like, this is not how you should talk about it. Like, it's not what a therapist is gonna tell you, you know? Like, those two aren't, like, because of each other. Like, they're two separate things. I think this is its own thing. I really can't tell. But it says, sometimes I wonder if fear is really the ghost inside us. The ghosts, plural, inside us, of the things we should have said but didn't. No. Not necessarily. That's not necessarily what fear is. Sometimes fear is, like, valid and of, like, a real thing that actually exists. And it's not, like, that doesn't sound like fear to me. That sounds like anxiety to me. Like, if you're replaying a conversation in your head, that gives anxiety to me, right? That doesn't give fear. Because fear would be of, like, something happening that has not happened. You know what I mean? Like, I would say even if you're, like, reliving something that scared you, like a traumatic experience, it was like, if you're reliving it, then you're currently feeling the fear of it, like, as if it's happening now, right? Whereas ghosts of things we should have said but didn't is something that's already happened, that you can't change, that you wish you could. That's anxiety. That's not being afraid of something. The thing's already happened, so there isn't anything to be afraid of, because you already know the outcome. That's anxiety. Like, this book pisses me off. Sometimes life feels like the last step on a ladder, falling into nothing. It feels like moments explode into fragments and force your heart to disappear. You're filled with a feeling. You are filled with a feeling. Please, like, anyone edit this besides her. You are filled with a feeling of wanting one more chance, just one last day to live every wish unfilled. You use filled twice, and neither of them should have been there. And when your heart is racing and your feet don't feel planted on the ground, remember falling from the ladder, that deafening silent sound. You piss me off with this. You started off with, sometimes life feels like you falling down from a ladder because you thought there was another step, but there wasn't, so you, like, fell, right? And then you try to wrap that up by saying, when you feel like you're falling, remember how it felt falling from the ladder and that deafening silent sound. What the fuck does that mean? Also, deafening silent sound. Is that hyperbole? I forget the actual grammatical terms, but deafening silent makes no sense. And then deafening silent sound. First of all, you should have just put the deafening silence if that's what you're going with. You don't need to put the deafening silent sound. Deafening and silent are both related to sound. We got what the fuck you meant by that. What do you mean that falling is silent? You yell when you fall. Like, if you're going down a ladder, you miss the last rung and you fall, you're gonna yell. Okay, you're not just like this whole, it's a paragraph, because of course it is. This whole paragraph makes no sense. Sometimes life feels like the last step on a ladder, falling into nothing. It feels like moments explode into fragments and force your heart to disappear. You are filled with a feeling of wanting one more chance, just one last day to live every wish unfilled. And when your heart is racing and your feet don't get planted on the ground, remember falling from the ladder, that deafening silent sound. That makes no sense. Those sentences don't go together. You're talking about multiple things. Like, I do not know what you meant by this. None of that goes together. None of that makes any sense. It's not my intention to hold you back, but rather to push you to excel. And I am sorry if sometimes I push too hard. If in the middle of the night you lie awake worrying about the day to come, but after me comes faith and strength to do all that must be done. Sincerely fear. I think sincerely fear is attached to that. I actually don't know. It's like set off to the side and its own little fucking thing. I don't know. But like, let's look at the paragraph. I believe this is talking about fear. It's not fear's intention to hold you back, but rather to push you to excel. That's not what fear does. Fear is like fight or flight. Fear is a survival instinct. Okay? Like, being scared of something, it's survival. It's not for a greater good. It's don't kill us, right? So, okay, that makes no sense. I'm sorry if sometimes I push too hard. Fear can't push you too hard because you can't be afraid of things to an unrealistic degree or afraid of something that you shouldn't be afraid of at all. That's a thing, for sure. If in the middle of the night you lie awake worrying about the day to come. So we just acknowledged that that's worry. There's a difference between anxiety and fear. There is. That's why there's two different words. You aren't diagnosed with a fear disorder. You're diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. Or like an anxiety disorder is different than a panic disorder, okay? Panic, I would say, is closer to fear. Panic is your fight or flight kicking in, like the feeling that like you're gonna die. Like, this is survival, right? Anxiety is different. Anxiety is worry. Anxiety is not necessarily life or death. Anxiety is something's wrong situationally, like it's different. And you just said you lie awake in the middle of the night worrying about the day to come. That's not fearing. That's worry. That is anxiety. That is different. But after me comes faith and strength to do what must be done. Faith in what? Because there you go, using faith again. And now you've used it twice and you haven't, both times you haven't said what context the word you're using the word faith in. So now it's starting to give religion. And you to that. Faith in, so like faith in what? And then the strength to do all that must be done. Fear doesn't give you strength. Not in this context. Like, yeah, you've heard of like being able to like, moms being able to like lift up a car off their baby or some shit. And it's because of like, you go into like crazy mode when you're trying to like protect something, right? But like, I would not say fear gives me the strength to do things. Like, fear may entice me to run faster if I think something is chasing me. But it's not, you can't talk about fear like it's useful like that. It's useful to live. You need it to live, right? But you can't talk about it like it's like character building. Like being afraid. Being truly afraid, not like anxious. Afraid is not character building. It's trauma building. If you were constantly afraid, that is trauma. That's not character. That's hurting you. So the way she talks about this, hate it. Some days I will come home and I might not say a word. I won't want, stop doing this. I won't want to talk or be held or tell you about my day. That doesn't mean I don't love you. It doesn't mean you aren't the sun on a dull, cloud-filled day. It just means I'm tired. It means my mind has been giving me grief and I'm exhausted today, and that's okay. The sentiment of that is fine, but I'm also very confused as to why that's in the book about mending the mind. That seems very like relationship, like couples counseling-esque, you know? Or like, you deal with things different than your partner, and so you talk about how like if you're overwhelmed or exhausted, you get quiet, so you need some time before you can come and tell your partner what's wrong. Like, it's very like couples counseling-y. And what does that have to do with mending the mind? Like, how does that fit into this dynamic? Like, this book is mainly about yourself, like singular. It's not really about couples. It's weird. It doesn't matter to me how many people see these words. All that matters is that they reach the person who needs them most at the right time. This is the only time that she breaks the fourth wall in any of her books. And by that I mean she like becomes the author addressing the reader of the book, right? This is the only time she does it, which makes it fucking weird that you chose to do it in the middle of the third book. Fucking weird. And then also this is so on your high horse egotistical, because it doesn't matter to me how many people read my books. It doesn't matter to me how many they sell. All that matters is that the person who needs it reads it. So the ego of being like, my writing is so good that it has helped people. And the ego of being like, I don't care how many it sells. I don't care. I do this for the one person who needs it. You do it because you want money and you feel like it. I hate people who lie about why they're doing stuff that's monetized. You're doing it for money. Just say you're doing it for money. If you were doing this because you felt like it, you would have published just Pillow Thoughts, just the first one. This is a 4-book series. This is the 3rd book. You're doing this for money. This is now for money. Do not act like a big person. This kind-hearted whoever the fuck. This is money. If you wanted people to just read it, then it would be fucking free or on Kindle Unlimited, so I wouldn't have to read this fucked up Libby copy of it, okay? That shit makes me so fucking mad. Because also, that's what everyone fucking says about everything. When they're trying to make it not seem like they don't care about the money and they're just there to help people. No, you're not. If you were only here to help people, it would be free. Like, I hate shit like that. I hate shit like that. If you really wanted to help people, it would be free. And you wouldn't be attaching your name to it. Because remember, when you do a good deed and it's attached to your name, that makes you look good. Like all those fucking people who like film themselves giving charity to homeless people, or film themselves doing something charitable. You filming it cancels out the good deed. If you were really doing this just to help that person, you would not be filming. You would not need to be known. You would not need your name attached to it. Just because the soil is rotten doesn't mean nothing will grow. Ideas sprout from places once forgotten. Flowers bloom in spaces that aren't always common. Now this one I wanted to look up the definition of rotted soil because I thought it was weird that she used the term rotted soil. So I googled rotten soil and I got the question, what is rotten soil? And the answer is, soil can't rot. Roots rot from being in soil that's kept too wet for too long. Soil doesn't rot. That's what I fucking thought. You can have soil that isn't like nutrient rich, but you can't have rotten soil. I read that and I was like, I swear to God, soil doesn't rot. It's not like that. Just because soil is rotten doesn't mean nothing will grow. Yeah, ideas sprout from places once forgotten. Flowers bloom in spaces that aren't always common. If you skip over the soil rotting, then you just get to like how people draw pictures of like the little sprout of like a little dandelion coming out of a crack in the concrete, because dandelions can fucking live off of like nothing, like an ounce of soil or some shit. Of all the ways to break and bend the truth, it was believing you and I were bulletproof. That's it. That's all. I'm pretty sure that's all it is. Of all the ways to break and bend the truth, it was believing you and I were bulletproof. That's not a full sentence. What was believing you and I were bulletproof? Like, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, grammatically, like, that doesn't make sense. Like, you didn't say, like, of all the ways to break and bend the truth, it was believing you and I were bulletproof. What is it? You didn't specify what it was. I think she's trying to say that truth was it, but that's not. Why can you not speak? Like, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I think this one is just one line. It says, sunlight is important. Draw the curtains, sweep away the dust. Drawing the curtains means closing them. You know what's worse? She's going to use drawing the curtains again later on. And she's going to use it correctly. Oh, I forgot that this is another grass. Grass isn't always greener. Okay, she uses it again. Listen to this. The grass is not always greener on the other side. Ask yourself, why is my grass dying? You just said the whole thing. You just said the actual phrase. You didn't even change it or nothing. Ask yourself, why is my grass dying? That is a very like therapist statement of like overarching theme. Okay, well, why is this happening? That's like a very like therapist something. You just said the whole thing. My thoughts are no more than boxes piled on top of each other, and my heart is the window with the shades drawn. I don't like, okay, my heart is the window, so that implies that we should already know that there's a window. Because you say the window, not a window. It should be a window with the shades drawn. With the shades drawn, which means they're closed. So you do know what it means. I read somewhere once that our minds can blend together in harmony. The mind of a musician who plays music. What else would they fucking do? Even while playing, as an individual, can synchronize with another musician. Let me read that sentence again for you. The mind of a musician who plays music even while playing as an individual can synchronize with another musician. Two musicians can play in sync. Two musicians can play different parts but be in sync. That is what you're trying to say. Why can you not fucking talk like a person? What the fuck is that sentence? As though somehow both their brain waves light up to make the melody. No. So they're doing this thing called reading music. And if you both read the same music and you can like play it correctly with like the same speed, then you're actually just going to play it correctly. You don't have to mind mend. You don't like telepathically talk to each other. It literally, it's like reading a page. And then you just do it correctly because you like know what you're doing. Like it's not magic, baby girl. I like to dream that hearts and minds are like this somehow. We are all different, but we are a harmony. Let me look up the definition of harmony before I say what's in my mind right now. Harmony, the combination of simultaneously sounded musical notes to produce chords and chord progressions having a pleasing effect. Okay? So, a harmony means that though you are playing a different physical note, the note goes with what's going on. Usually that means it's in the same key. And like a musical key is like sharps and flats. So you can have A, and you can have A sharp, which is a little bit higher pitched than normal A, or you can have A flat, which is a little bit lower pitched than normal A, okay? A sharp usually sounds like happy, and a flat usually sounds sad or like melancholy, okay? So if you're playing a harmony, that would mean that most likely you are going to be in the same key. So you're in the same like family of like, we're all playing these happy notes, or we're all playing these melancholy notes of like, and specifically you're going to be in a scale. I really don't want to get into a bunch of music theory in this book review, but like, I like to dream that hearts and minds are like this somehow. We are all different, but we are a harmony. I don't think you should use the word harmony. I think you should use the word melody. Let me look at melody. Okay. A melody is a linear succession of musical tones that the listener perceives as a single entity. In its most literal sense, a melody is a combination of pitch and rhythm, while more figuratively, the term can include other musical elements such as tonal color. Okay, don't worry about that second part. We're not getting into that. But melody is like what goes together. It's like Harry Potter. The Harry Potter theme, or like the Darth Vader's theme from Star Wars, like that's a melody. And the parts are different for the different instruments, but they go together. You know what I mean? Harmony doesn't fit. And that irritates me. This whole metaphor irritates me because it seems really fucking weird. Because she's trying to do the same thing that she tried to do earlier, where it's like an individual in a music setting. Because no boo-boo. Like in a musical setting, you don't want to be an individual if you're playing with a group. Because we're not talking about, like, earlier you were talking about orchestras, right? That's not like a pop singer who sings a song and then has music in the background, right? That's different. We're in an orchestra, it's not like that. It's everyone's doing something. And like you have solos, but they're not more important than the entire orchestra that's playing, okay? So if we're still going with that, the musicians that you're talking about are going to be instrumental and not in a setting where the individual is important. It's in a setting where the team is what's important, where the whole orchestra is what's important, not just you. So it again does not match your bullshit. I really want to know if she did band, because it gives no. And that is the end of my notes. Now, we already kind of talked about the drawings, the illustrations. They are new. Praise the Lord, they are new. They actually drew something. It does, when there is a jellyfish, it does look like the same jellyfish. I'm going to be very real with you. As like beforehand, it really does. But they definitely are redrawing the owl, which I'm proud of them for. But again, the owl, they put a lot of detail into specifically the owl's feathers in all of the drawings, which as an artist I appreciate, but as if you're trying to illustrate something that's going to be very small, you just wasted your time. And I feel like you should know that if you're going to illustrate a book. Because also what that does, adding all that detail, it just makes the owl very, very dark. Like darker than he should be. Like I'm gonna show like while I'm talking about this, some of the different owls. But just, he looks very dark, and it's because he has more detail than he should for something that is going to be perceived as like this big, you know. So to wrap it up, this one actually made me heated, which was tea, because the last one didn't make me heated. But to wrap it up, we're gonna look at Goodreads. Again, I gave this 2 stars. I gave this 2 stars because it irritated me and I was bored. I gave the second one 2 stars because it was actually an improvement on the first one, which I gave 1 star, but this one was not an improvement. So as of right now, September 23rd, it has a 4-star overall review, 5,750 ratings, 417 reviews. The ratings went down. Oh my god. The last one had like tens of thousands. People aren't, you know what that tells me? People aren't finishing the series, which is tea. Overwhelmingly good reviews. The majority are 5-star. The top 3 on the front are 2 4s and a 5-star. I don't agree with that literally at all, but also we're learning that less people are reading these, because now I'm gonna go through. So that one is at 5,750 ratings. Pillow Thoughts 2 is at 13,793 ratings. Pillow Thoughts 1 is 48,971 ratings. Fewer people, less people, they aren't continuing the series. Yep. And the last book is 2,567 ratings. People aren't finishing the series. That's bad. If you're writing a series. Like, theoretically, people should be grappling to get the next book as soon as it comes out, and therefore it should flood Goodreads with reviews. But if they're not doing that, if all the reviews are on your first book, that means people didn't feel the need to continue. And that's just speaks to how much people care to stay with something that they apparently liked. I don't know. I just compare this to things like Sarah J. Maas books, which I know aren't poetry, but like the idea of like, you know, the ACOTAR series or something like that by Sarah J. Maas, like A Court of Thorns and Roses. Sorry, I had to long that out, because I personally hate it when book names are cut down to all the letters, because there should be like a list that I can look at to be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because the only one that I understand is ACOTAR, right? A Court of Thorns and Roses. Like, that would make sense. But people are doing it with other series, and now I'm confused because I don't know what they mean. But okay, like with that series, people are like any of Sarah J. Maas's series, people are like grappling for the new book as soon as it comes out. Like, it is intense when new shit drops from her, okay? And she has like, ACOTAR is like 5 books so far. The Throne of Glass is more than that. And then she has the Crescent City series, which is 3 books. And like when the 3rd book just dropped a little while ago, people were up the ass trying to get this fucking book. Like, I feel like if you're writing a series, you should want the anticipation of the next book, and reading dropping off after each book, it gives people not anticipating it, basically. Like, I'm not saying that for a poetry book there's going to be as many readers as ACOTAR, but like, that's what I would think, that there would be like some sort of like to go from 48,000 on your first book to 2,000 on the last book of that series, that's an insane decrease. Like, what's the math on that? Not me pulling out a calculator. Where is the calculator? I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a math question.
Okay.
So the first book in the series has 48,000 reviews. The last book in the series has 2,000 reviews. What is that decrease, like, percentage-wise?
It's 4.2% of the total reviews. So, like, there's 48,000 on the first. There's only 4.2% of that number of reviews on the last book.
So that's a 96% decrease. Yeah, that sucks. That's like a really bad decrease. No, I was trying to do it because I looked up the Goodreads reviews, because when I read this one only has 3,000. So I was like, wait, that's like a huge decrease. And I looked at the 4th, and the 4th only has 2,000. So I'm like, people aren't reading them. So that's why I wanted to figure out the percentage decrease.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I feel like there's also just a lot of books that people don't read the entire series. They just read the most popular.
That's true. But then I also see that as like, you're not maintaining the hype of your book, you know?
Yeah.
Because like, look what happens when Sarah J Maas drops a book. She's the one who wrote ACOTAR, like the fairy porn. That one's her. When she writes a book, people go fucking crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Those are my thoughts. I'll see you guys for book 4 next time. Bye.